Okay, good. So good afternoon, everyone. Thank you so much for joining the second Athlete Commission online conference. Again, based on the initiative of the first edition, it's basically to touch base with you, to hear the current situation in your country, the various challenges that you incur and encounter, and of course, to share this further with the United World Wrestling Bureau and the administration. So it's basically an exchange moment for us to stay strong and stay united, but also to really take into consideration your personal or overall concerns. I think we all know each other very well. It's the first time I meet Yasmin. Welcome, Yasmin. It's nice to see you and to meet you. So yes, I am Dakan Yemke, Development Director at United World Wrestling. And I'm going to hand over to Jordan Burrows, who is the chair of the Athletes Commission at United World Wrestling, to give us some updates based on the last Bureau meeting that was held on the 17th of June. And of course, we're going to go through various items on the agenda, especially Yuri Meyer will give us the updates from the IOC. And I think there is Gordon Templeman, United World Wrestling Marketing and Communications Director, that's going to share an information with you for the next week. So Jordan, the floor is yours. Welcome and thank you.
Hi, Decca. Good to see you. And hi, everyone else out there. I hope you guys are doing well and taking care in this difficult situation. I think this strain here in the US has been easing up just a little bit over the last couple of weeks. It's been a difficult time for us all. And so I've just been thinking about you guys all as we've continued to try to train and stay safe simultaneously. I think for us here in the US, we are finally reaching a space in which we can start to train more often with less restrictions. And so here in America, we are closely tied to our college wrestling teams. A lot of universities have been shut down because of the pandemic, and it's been difficult for us to get into wrestling rooms. So most of the training that we've been doing has been coming from local wrestling clubs or youth clubs, or we've been finding extra mat space, whether it's in someone's garage or basement. We've really been making makeshift training situations for us so we can continue to train as we await all of the decisions from UWW. Right now, there's nothing on the schedule. I know in America, we are in an attempt to try to create tournaments in which we can keep our athletes engaged. One of the most difficult things about this year is that none of the tournaments that we're going to compete in are really going to have any implications on qualifying for the Olympic Games or scoring points from a ranking perspective for the Olympic Games. And so we're trying to put things on the schedule so guys can get down the weight, so they can sharpen, so they can compete. But it will be really difficult for us to have the same sort of significance for any of our events, being as though most of those events were already competed in 2020 and the qualifications are already set. So we're doing our best to make sure that everything you've done in 2020 will be and hold the same amount of weight and significance moving into the following year. And so one of the things that I kind of wanted to discuss with you guys from our perspective is one of the things that we've really improved on here in the US is we've actually started to host events, but on a very small scale. We've had numerous wrestling matches that have been hosted online only with very few fans in the stands. And so we have done wrestling rooms in which we'll have a thermometer there to take temperatures of the athletes before they step into the room, and we keep it anywhere from 8 to 10 people at a time. And so you have your temperature checked. If your temperature is low and under what would be called a symptom for the coronavirus, and you're able to come in and practice and train. And we've also been able to host a few online events. And so basically the events have the competitors, their coaches, and no fans. Everything is hosted online. So I think that's something that's been really cool because a lot of athletes have been really itching to get back onto the wrestling mats. One of the main concerns and challenges for us is we really don't know what's going on around the world. That's one thing that I've been curious about is how you guys have been able to train over the last few months. Before the Olympic Games were postponed, we were afraid that we would have to go to the Olympic Games because it was so important to us, but we wouldn't have the ability to train at a high level. And the pandemic has really affected everyone differently. I saw that the European Union just opened up their gates, but they will not allow Americans in to their countries. And so that's a really difficult thing for us to experience, because we can't really go anywhere because the pandemic has went down, and now the numbers are exploding again here in the US. And so it's really hard for us to have any sort of consistency with our training, with our ability to travel and prepare for events in the future. And so that's one of the challenges that I'd like to talk to you guys about, is how it's affecting you guys personally and your countries, and how have you been able to train and stay safe throughout this time. And lastly, I would just kind of talk about the tournaments moving forward. I think that for us, I really want us to be able to compete where we feel completely safe, where we feel that we're able to control the narrative and we're not renegades going into these tournaments just in hopes of competing, but putting ourselves, our families, and our competitors at risk. That's a really difficult thing. Even here in the US, the Olympic Training Center for the United States is in Colorado Springs, and they've actually been one of the last people to open up their gates to allow wrestlers into their rooms. I think they don't want any liability for putting their wrestlers in any precarious situations or putting us in danger. And so the place where we typically train to prepare for the Olympic Games and for the World Championships has been shut down, and they won't host any training camps until January of 2021, with our Olympic trials being in April of 2021. And so we've pretty much pushed everything back exactly a year here in the US. And things stand pretty solidly as they were the year before. But we are in an attempt to get all of our guys together, keep them safe, and start to formulate a plan for what it looks like to move forward as a country. And so I'm hoping that I can kind of bounce some ideas off of you guys today, but really hear from a lot of you, because I think this is a very important time for our sport. One of the things that I do not want to do is have wrestling be the pioneer and the trailblazer to come back first, but come back in an unsafe environment and be given a stigma as a sport that hustled back and put all of its athletes in danger. That's something dangerous for us, particularly because of our placement in the Olympic Games. I think it's going to be important that this runs flawlessly. But I am actually happy that the Olympic Games were pushed back a year. I hope that moving forward into next season, we can see that the Olympic Games postponement really helped to give peace of mind to all of the athletes, all of the fans that were going to be in attendance, and then also that we can focus fully on our training at the highest level and not at all on staying safe from a health perspective. And so that's pretty much what I have for you guys. I think as we continue to talk and I hear some of your situations, and Decca, hear from you guys and Gordon and all the other members, I'd like to kind of discuss current events when we're talking about looking at the slides, Tokyo seeding, the ranking series, the world championships potentially in the winter or the fall, of 2021. So I think all of these things are important, but also looking at the postponements and the cancellations, I think that from my perspective, those things are good for athletes so we can stay safe in this time period.
Great. Thank you so much, Jordan. Thank you. And any comments from your side regarding how the Bureau made the decisions on the competition schedule and the competition calendar for next year, and how we've really tried our best to analyze every situation, and especially when you look at the continental championships. Of course, we were planning to host the Americas in Brazil, and now when you see the situation in Brazil completely shifted, and the cases have exploded, and I think it's the number one hub right now of the coronavirus, and the number of infection and the number of people that have died, unfortunately. So yeah, we're basically on a forecast basis. And but how do you see? Do you think that the decisions made by the Bureau for the competition calendar is reassuring, is in line with what you just mentioned, and how did your fellow athletes respond?
I think it is good. I think it
Okay.
is good. Um, UWW, they do a great job. Our leadership does a great job with making sure that the athletes are on point. I think initially we were trying to push our ability to create a safe environment and allow our athletes to compete. But I think now when they start to see what's going on here in America, and I say this humbly, but I think the American team is a large part of what we do worldwide. And so for us to not have the ability to compete at any of these championships would be difficult from a world perspective. And so looking at the top teams in the world and how it's affecting not only us, but Russia as well at this period of time, it's a really difficult thing to have two of the top three teams in the world not be able to compete and travel is a difficult thing. And so I think it's good. I think pushing things back into where we can get to a comfortable space, because we really don't know how long this thing is going to last. That's a difficult thing. There's so much uncertainty at this time. And so I think right now, just trying to alleviate any tension within the organization by helping athletes to stay safe, because we cannot train at our best or consistently, and pushing things into the fall. And that's being optimistic. But ultimately, I think that when we start to get into that early 2021 range, January, February, and then hopefully even put in some things after the Olympics, I don't think that that's a bad thing.
Mm-hmm.
There were a lot of tournaments here, a lot of events here in America that we had to miss in 2020 because of the pandemic. But I think that things that we would typically not have in Olympic years, I think it's still a good time to have those things. I think they'll allow Olympians to wrestle at a world championships where typically you can't during an Olympic year. It could be pretty important as well. And so I think that I stand behind our leadership wholeheartedly. I trust those guys and the decisions that they're making, and on our, not only on their behalf, but on the athletes' behalf. I know that they have our health and our thoughts in their minds. And so, yeah, I think it was good.
Definitely. Great. Thank you, Jordan. Any comments from maybe Yasmin? You have any comments? Anything to say?
Hi, yes. So would you like an update on Canada, or just sort of speaking to
update on Canada, as you were not here last time, and
Sure.
and your perspective.
So like the US, Canada is a fairly decentralized place. And so there's a lot of differences around Canada, and each province handles their public health a little bit differently. And so I would say on the whole right now, most provinces are not allowing any wrestling, although we're starting to see things open back up. We have some of the same challenges, as Jordan mentioned, in that all of our clubs are primarily tied to universities, which means that even if the province has started to open back up, the university itself, due to its own risk management, might decide not to open up. We have seen the cancellation, at least, of fall 2020 university level sport, which is a huge feeder into our national level sport. So I have some concerns about that, and just like the long-term health of wrestling participation. When people can't participate in university, they don't participate as much in club level and national level wrestling either. And as people are coming back, you know, we have other challenges as well. Like, we have many parents on our national teams, and childcare is like not really available to the same extent. There's fewer spaces in childcare. So if you had it before the pandemic, you might not have it now. And so getting to training is going to be difficult as things open back up. I think one of the concerns I have about fall wrestling participation, even at like the lower age class levels, is that the opportunity cost of attending a tournament now is much higher than it was before. And not just in that you have the potential to get sick yourself or bring, you know, COVID back to your home country, but also that when you come back from international travel, at least where we live in Canada, you are required to self-isolate for 2 weeks. So, you know, whether that's coaches or officials or athletes, a lot of those people have jobs, and they now have to take up to 3 weeks off, you know, like 1 week for the tournament, 2 weeks to self-isolate. And I think that that's something we just have to realize, that like in many cases, like not only athletes, but like volunteers, especially volunteer coaches, volunteers, officials, they're the lifeblood of wrestling. And so I don't know if that's something that we are thinking about, or if there's any other types of support that we could provide to those people. I also like echo Jordan's concern just about not all countries being able to participate in the championships that we have. I think that the beauty of sport is that we all have an equal opportunity to prove that we're not equal, right? We all get to show up to the tournament, and then we wrestle in the tournament, we decide who's the best. And the idea that like the US would not be able to go to a tournament right now in Europe and in Canada would, like, I think that those are things that we have to have some broader conversations about. Like, when do you have a critical mass that you're like, we're gonna just run the tournament, knowing that, you know, there's lots of athletes in the world who aren't going to be able to attend. And you look at the US, there are places that have a lot of COVID cases, but then there's also places that have very few, right? And you could be an athlete from one of those places that is barely affected, but you're not going to be going to a tournament. So these are the things that are on the minds of Canadian athletes, and I'm sure other athletes around the world. So yeah, that's my update.
Yeah. Just based on what you just said, Yasmin, I mean, of course, it's not a United World Wrestling decision which athlete can compete and cannot compete. You know, it's really, it's based on what the World Health Organization is saying, is based on the crisis and the current situation of each country. And of course, the legislations that are implemented by each country when it comes to traveling restrictions and health checkups and, you know, the isolation factor. All these things are definitely out of our hands. I think it's the case for all the sports worldwide. And the IOC, of course, is monitoring this very closely, because even for Tokyo, you know, as at the beginning, everything was very under control, and then all of a sudden they started closing their borders and starting implementing measures as well. So we have to work closely with the governments, and thankfully we have Mr. Lalovich is a member of the IOC task force for the coronavirus crisis. So he's working closely with all the entities to update what will be the impact on the sports in general. So we will definitely, of course, keep everyone informed, but it's something that we have no control whatsoever, you know, when it comes to traveling and entering into a country. Maybe if we ask Kumail Ghassemi from Iran, what are the updates from Iran? I haven't heard much on the news. I'm following the news every day of various medias, and I haven't heard much on the case of Iran recently. Kumail and Farnaz, our colleague, she is translating.
Hello, everybody.
Hello. I'm happy to be here, and I'm here to help the Kumail as a translator. As we talked before the meeting, I wanted to say that the number of the infected people in Iran is still in high rate, and the government reduced the limitation and lets most of the activity be started in the June. But again, since today we had new limitation again, and so sports like football start activity, but right now wrestling is not started its activity. But as I told you before, the wrestlers just train individually in their small and local clubs or on a beach, somewhere else that they can find to be safe for them and to train in this situation. But totally, we cannot have any competition or something else.
Okay, and what would you say? Do you see any improvement in the coming weeks? If have they implemented some measures that show some improvement, or is everything still under lockdown?
You know, the situation was good before, I mean, the last week, but now it's changed again, and the government forced to make a limitation again. So we cannot say anything that happened for the next week. Maybe they can control the infected people, infected cases, so we can back against the life, normal life.
Okay.
But now it's just we locked down again.
Okay. Thank you, Farnaz. Thank you, Kamel. Mindaugas, now that Lithuania has gone back to training, what has been the outcome? Can you update us as you went back to training, Mindaugas?
Yeah, hello everyone. Yeah, we are back to training, and in Lithuania, I think we have good situation, maybe 1 or 2 cases a day, and only people who are returning from from other countries, they give us some cases of COVID-19. Yes, but the situation is okay. Our team is working on the mat, wrestling. Our junior team, our cadet team began to wrestle. So I think about months and a half we are training all together and doing good job.
So no case of corona.
Sorry?
There has not been any case of coronavirus within your team.
No. No, yeah.
Yes. Okay.
Yeah, everything is okay with the team, and a few days ago we have call with, because we have some Nordic countries in Europe are training together always, and we have a call from all coaches, and from September, because our Nordic countries situation not bad too, so when we are beginning to plan our training camps for the preparation for some events that will be in the end of the year, we hope. So, and I know that next month in July, in the end of July, Finland is doing first international training camp, where I think will be about 5-6 countries coming, and Lithuania is going there too.
Okay. Where exactly in Finland? Tampere or?
I think no Tampere, Paljahti.
Paljahti, okay.
Yeah.
Training camp. Okay.
But this will be training camp for juniors, because they're waiting, maybe because they're coming information from UWW that September, October, maybe will be some continental championship here.
Yes.
So the teams began to prepare. But of course, like said, guys, it must be safe for everyone.
Yeah.
And if there is be continental championship and there will be no some countries, it will be not good for competition too. So
Yeah.
I think everyone must take part in.
Of course, of course. I think everybody saw the decisions of the Bureau and the proposed schedule of competition and the calendar updates, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. If needed, we can go through, but it's up on the website, and these are the decisions that have been made and plans for towards the fall as of September. Hopefully, if everything goes back to normal, more or less, so that we can start some events.
Okay. Hello, Becca?
Yes, Yuri?
Yeah, can you go back one slide? I want to mention something, especially for the Americas.
Yuri, Lei needs to go back, yeah.
So the Bureau decision about the competitions this year, in terms of the Continental Championship, it's now up to the Continental Council. So the decision will be taken by each continent, depending on the situation. But as right now, we're currently speaking with every national federation in the Americas, and especially in Latin America. There are like no country in Latin America who is able to train right now. They're all forbidden to go to clubs on any kind of training centers. There's no wrestling training right now. And we are afraid of course, the travel restriction, especially for some countries like Chile, Peru, and Brazil, who have a big amount of cases. And also we don't have any country who is willing and available to host a competition this year. So we didn't have we didn't have a decision yet, but what we're gonna do is we're gonna email all the national federations of the Americas, asking first who is willing to host. If we get any reply, we will come up with a second question to all national federations who is willing to attend. And then depending on the numbers that we get from these countries, we're going to take the decision of making happen the juniors and cadets championship or not. But as we are right now, I think it might not happen, because there is, even till September, the countries cannot even fly inside their countries. So for example, Colombia or Venezuela, Panama, they cannot even cross between one state to another state inside the country. So it's been difficult because we are like 2 months late from the situation in Europe. So right now we're on that pike that Italy or Spain were before. Mm-hmm. So for us, it will be very difficult to host any kind of event, providing the safety for athletes this year. But we will let the decision come up from the national federations and not from us.
Okay, very good. Thank you, Yuri. Any other comments? Arsen, maybe you... Sophia is here. Where are the, yeah. Arsen, maybe some updates from Armenia? Not connected? Okay. Sophia? Lei, do you want to?
Yeah, sure. Yeah. Hi, everyone.
Hi.
Yeah, I was thinking there was a lot of good points, and the difference between Sweden and for example, you say in Canada, is that they are very big countries. Sweden is a really small country. So even if we can travel like in the country, so we are used to going away a lot of times for training camps, for example, to train with the other countries in Europe, because Sweden is like probably like one of the states in USA. So even if we can train, we are missing a lot of high quality sparring. So right now we're allowed to stay on the mat, but we cannot do, like, we're missing out on the high quality sparring, because right now we don't have as many wrestlers as many of the other countries. So for us it's a problem right now, because we can't travel, and Sweden has had a quite big outbreak. So right now we're not allowed, I think, even though Europe is open up, like Sweden is one of the countries that is not welcome, only to a very few places, because we had a lot of cases here in Sweden.
Yeah, correct. Odunayo, any updates from the Nigeria and the West Africa?
In Nigeria here, we are experiencing high number of positive cases daily, and the ban on sporting activities have not been lifted
yet.
So athletes have not been allowed to resume contact training, and also I realized Nigeria is one of the countries not cleared by the European Union to visit. So we are still in lockdown. We don't train, except you have training equipment at home. So that's the situation in Nigeria. No interstates, and most of the wrestlers we have in Nigeria, in Bayelsa State, Ondo State, I mean few states in, we have 36 states, but all the wrestlers we have are in different states, so we don't have training partners to train with. No training camps right now.
Yeah, I see. I see. So it's even more challenging. Morocco, I've just had the information earlier this week that Morocco is finally lifting the stay-at-home sanction, and people are starting to go out. So and then of course the training center in El Jadida, they're starting their training just now. So after several months for the athletes that have been in lockdown, it's a hopeful news, let's say. But yes, definitely as I mentioned before, while Yasmin was talking about the traveling restrictions, it's really something that we're going to monitor and look at very closely. What are the decisions of each nation in terms of traveling, in terms of isolation, and these elements are of course on our agenda permanently to see how we can organize the competitions in a way that it doesn't create so much hurdle for you to attend and the athletes to attend and all the official teams. Jordan mentioned what is the status on the Olympic Games. Nothing has been changed other than it's in 2021, July 2021, and nothing is shifted or even under question, Jordan, for the games. So yes, they're going to take place by 2021 with the hope that the whole situation will be under control by the end of this year. I really hope so. Gordon, you have a point?
Yes, I just want, first, before I make the point, I wanted to say I'm very happy to be on the call. Thankful for the invite from Decca and Lay. I'm a panelist this time, but I joined last time on the call, but not as a panelist. But it really shows, I think, how important the communication is and sharing everyone's perspectives around the world from an athlete's standpoint, how important it is. And I definitely will join and make myself more a staple, or I think present in these calls, because it's very interesting to hear your guys' perspectives. And as the comms director, we want to share the voice of the athletes as well. So I just wanted to start with that and say how happy I am to join. I did want to make a comment following yours, Decca, in response to Jordan's. And I think it can kind of shed some light on the UWW's position. As I was in meetings with the technical commission, and I have to prepare a lot of the messaging coming from the Bureau, I think UWW took a very similar stance to the IOC, and that planning is so important in this process. So I think the IOC right now, they are not, entertaining. They're considering all options, and I think we have to consider all options, but we would be paralyzed as a sport if we were not to take an assertive position to plan for the remaining events in 2020. So I think in response to the Tokyo 2020 Games, I think their big kind of push is to plan, consider many different scenarios. But yes, Decca, as you mentioned, the games are to move forward at this time. I'm sure you guys read the sports news, and there's a poll taken from the city of Tokyo, and half of the inhabitants do not want the games to happen. I can reassure you that public polls, if you want an event not to happen, then you take a public poll. And you can see that from Olympic bids from Boston to, many of the most recent ones, where public polls is absolutely it is not the way if you're looking for a positive reaction. So I think to just really emphasize the point, I think we are moving in a phase of planning and trying to consider options. And I think if we weren't taking that position and we're reacting, I think the long-term health of the sport would have, I think, major repercussions So I think it's to plan, it's to have these in place, it's to have the conversations. How could this work? What are the added details of like a new norm? I think to have these events take place. But of course, I mean, as the comms director, I will say confidently the health of the athletes and I think everyone involved in competitions is the utmost priority. But that does not allow us to stop our jobs, because it would be detrimental to the sport. And we've progressed so much from 2013 that we do not want to lose our foothold in moving the sport forward and being a leader in the Olympic movement. So, excuse me, Decca, for...
No, very good. And maybe if you want to add on a positive note, Gordon, I think you had something to share.
Yeah, so absolutely.
So that actually brings back a lot of, it brings a lot of hope and positive that we really need, actually. So go for it.
And I mean, I try to instill this within my team. I think the wrestling spirit is that of perseverance and facing the challenge and making it a positive. So that's from a comms, team. We've really tried to embrace that. And I would definitely want to share, I think, a campaign that is, I think it will boost morale. It should inject positivity to the wrestling family and to the community. I think it also touches on Jasmine's point about how we can support national federations as well as athletes who are going to be faced with difficulties in terms of financing their participation to competition, as well as the organizers hosting the event. What's going to change for them? So yeah, I think for me to share the campaign, I know U.S. wrestling clubs, universities have embraced this campaign already. So we're working with our sponsor, Nike Wrestling. It's under the whole umbrella of We Will Play Again. So we will launch a We Will Wrestle Again at an international perspective. And what does that mean? So I think it's going to be based around the message We Will Wrestle Again, boosting morale and kind of positivity within the community. We'll also base it around having this slogan along with Nike's slogan and the United World Wrestling logo, where we can put this shirt for sale. And we've worked with Nike Wrestling where the portions of kind of the money that's made on the sales of the t-shirt will definitely be put into a separate account dedicated to getting wrestling back onto the mat. So we are trying to work with our partners. We're trying to turn, this challenging time of a global pandemic, and we're trying to bring positivity back into the community, but also be solution-based, and I think bring, some funds where we know we face a big challenge ahead as a sport at large, where we can kind of help wrestlers fulfill their dreams and participate at competitions. So that's, just a very, overview of the campaign we will be launching in the coming weeks. I will certainly have the team reach out and share more information on the campaign itself and how you guys can help spread the message. But yeah, I did want to join the call and share, I think, this exciting, positive campaign that we can kind of, turn the narrative and make it positive, not just, I think about, difficult news during these times. So.
Yeah. Right.
Thank you,
Great. Thank you, Gordon. Yeah, I think this is great news, and I hope that I really count on each and every one of you of the Athletes Commission to join, because you are definitely the role models for all the other athletes and all the other wrestlers. So please do join Gordon and be part of the campaign. Thanks, Gordon. Arsen is back online. Maybe you want to share some updates, Arsen?
Yeah, sure. Hi again.
Hi.
Thank you, Gordon, for good news. Nice. Of course, we are ready to join you, and this is a nice idea. Well, about Armenia situation in Armenia, I can say the same what Jordan says. Unfortunately, it's not so good in Armenia, the situation. Everything still is closed. I mean, the wrestling halls. There are some fitness centers which start to operate, but only with strict restrictions. So you can't stay there for a long time. It's very difficult to find uh, free time because they make groups for 15-20 person maximum, and if you enter a fitness center where already there are more than 15 or 20 persons, you can't start your trainings. So it's really very difficult now. About the traveling, also the same situation as in USA or Russian. We can't still travel abroad, uh, at least till the middle of July. Maybe in the end of July, we'll discuss again to open our borders. Uh, I've organized a 2-hour discussion in our parliament with different sport leaders, like head coaches, representatives of different sports. And after we send our offers to our government, for restarting our trainings, professional trainings, for reopening our training halls. But anyway, till now, Ministry of Healthcare and Ministry of Sport, they think that it is dangerous to open the professional wrestling halls. So all the guys and female athletes still competing, just training just in open air conditions. They are making open air trainings, and of course it's just for keeping in the minimum condition your preparation, but it's not serious, it's not professional, so we have really difficulties. Dick, also I'm getting a lot of questions about World Championship 2020, about seniors. If we have any update on it, please tell me, because from different countries they are writing, and still I have no any answer. If we have clarity for that,
You mean
for
Senior World Championship 2020?
yes.
No, we will have a Senior World Championship 2021.
Yeah, I know, but about 2020, do we have any?
We have planned, hopefully, Junior World Championship in November in Serbia.
I think Gordon wants to say something.
Yeah. And then I will give him the floor soon. And then there is the U23 in Finland, Tampere.
Yeah, that all I know, just about seniors. Yeah, that all I know. Thank you, Dave.
Yeah. Gordon, you want to say something?
Yes. So on Senior World Championships 2020, there has been, I think, a call to submit host city bids for the Senior World Championships.
Yeah.
I think some federations or some countries have expressed to host a Senior World Championships as the Olympic Games has been postponed. I mean, if you're a senior athlete, yeah, I think this is a long duration without having competition. So I would tell you at the moment, coming from the Bureau, it's we're collecting bids. There is a potential to have a Senior World Championship late November, early December. I think though there's just an evaluation, a study going on linked to the pandemic, asking, is this feasible at the moment? But I would again go back to the point, we want to plan, we want to explore these options, because if we don't plan to have this happen, then of course, it rolls around to November and we would never be able to have this opportunity for the athletes. So it is a consideration. We're receiving host city bids. It's in process. And I believe in the month later in July, there will be updates. So I think we can certainly pass the message or the update along to the Athletes Commission.
Thank you, Gordon. Thank you, Deka. And here I also agree with my colleagues that most important is, of course, safety. And yeah, if we don't feel that it is possible to organize this safe championship and also for all the world, but not just for some countries, few countries, I think it will be not fair to organize this kind of championship. And I'm seeing also a lot of politicians around the world are speaking about the second phase of the pandemic, which they say will start maybe in October. So yeah, this everything makes the situation harder. So that is the situation in Armenia. Thank you.
Thank you, Arsene. Thank you so much.
Just to add on Gordon's comment, the deadline for bidding for the World Championship was June 25. So it's been finished for a couple of days ago. So I think the sport department is analyzing that right now. And as Gordon said, they will come up with some answers as soon as possible.
Yeah, definitely. Thank you, Yuri. We haven't heard maybe from Sunyanan. Lei can translate, and I will mute myself.
Hi, Deka. Good afternoon, everyone. China national team are training in Yunnan now from June 9th. We have a big training base here in the hill. It is isolated from outside, but quite safe. In the environment is good, nice cool weather, and many kinds of fruits. Our teammates feel more active now, and we wish to attend the competition. There is still on schedule in national competition, but I heard there may be some in international competition from October to December by UWW. We look forward to sporting. Okay.
And so your English has improved so much.
Thank you.
Very good, Yanan. I'm very proud of you. You're improving your English. Therefore, I have to move my Chinese.
Yeah, thank you.
Thank you. Thank you. Very good. So I think Melona, as-tu appris l'anglais depuis la dernière fois? I'm joking with Melona saying, has he learned English since last time?
Yes. Okay.
Je t'embête.
Je sais. Mais c'est plus fluide quand c'est toi qui parles.
D'accord.
À part si tu veux vraiment, j'essaie en anglais, mais bon.
Comme tu veux. De toute façon, on est libre. Voilà.
Non, la situation en France est un petit peu mieux depuis le déconfinement.
So the situation in France is better since they have there is no stay-at-home sanction.
Oui. Donc depuis le 11 juin, on pouvait faire des entraînements juste physiques à l'extérieur. Maintenant, on peut faire à l'intérieur et on peut commencer la lutte. Enfin, depuis le 22 juin, on peut recommencer à lutter avec des examens, bien sûr, pour voir si on n'a pas la maladie.
Okay, so since the 22nd of June, the French team has started wrestling, but they have to do a health test and of course different analysis to see if they are infected or not.
Ouais, juste pour le sport professionnel, enfin pour le haut niveau, c'est-à-dire les clubs sont c'est encore interdit.
So for the national high elite team, this is it's only this has been given only this permission, this authorization has been given to the national French wrestling team, but not for the clubs or other divisions.
Ouais. Et du coup, la fédération a organisé 2 stages cet été, un en juillet et un en août, dans le sud de la France, enfin avec toutes les équipes, c'est-à-dire gréco, libre et féminine, mais juste entre Français, quoi. C'est pas ouvert aux étrangers.
So they're going to have a training camp between July and August in the south of France, but just for the French national team, it's not open for other nations. Très bien, bah c'est un très bon signe et puis j'imagine que vous êtes content, Melona?
Oui, bah on est content. Hein. C'est vrai que
So
après le confinement, ça plaît et puis surtout que si la maladie diminue en France, c'est encore mieux. J'espère que ça va s'améliorer d'ici le mois de septembre, que les clubs reprennent tout ça.
Oui.
Parce que la fédération veut aussi organiser peut-être le championnat par équipe des clubs. Donc voilà, c'est aussi une préparation pour nous pour la saison individuelle senior internationale.
So Melona is saying that it's a very positive future. The future looks positive because of the training camps, but also that the French Federation is organizing national competitions towards the fall season of 2020. So, and I said to Melona, you must be very happy because, as you know, I think Yuri is one of the South of America is the last continent right now that is under lockdown and they cannot go out. So, and France until the 11th of June was also under lockdown where the people couldn't go outside. So it's, I told Melona he must be very happy to be able to go out and also to see that there is already a training camp planned between July and August. So if I just may reiterate, Jordan, I think you know very well the USA returning to mat guideline where there was a scientific study, which I really noted about the 8 weeks minimum required for an athlete to get back into shape after this long period of staying at home and training with the limitations and you know the, how can I say, the improvisation of training possibilities between your living room and your kitchen and your hall. So Jordan, how do you see the training condition, the impact also of coronavirus on your physical preparation?
It's been difficult. I think that we are in a phase where, and it kind of listened to Gordon talk about potentially hosting a Senior World Championships in November. I think even beyond, and in addition to the safety concerns, really, we want to display and put out a quality product. Like as wrestlers, as high level elite athletes, we want to make sure that we're competing at our best. And so me just kind of expanded upon this, like, okay, well, we can compete safely. It was like, okay, but we haven't trained at our best for a long period of time. And so that 8 weeks, we're really going to have a long buffer period to really get back into intense training. And I was talking to Jasmine in a private chat where it's beyond just getting into the wrestling room. It's the weight room. It's going to get massage therapy. It's going to a chiropractor. It's going, even something as trivial as going to the grocery store. All these things have been affected adversely everywhere. So it's really difficult for us to get everything that we need to compete at our best. I think once we get to a realm where every country has the ability to get into their wrestling rooms, into their training facilities and start to prepare for an event, we're going to have a really difficult time moving into a competition with confidence. And I don't know if that'll ever be possible. So that's a difficult thing, but we have to have some sort of equivalent playing ground because now we're at the expense of our communities and our government. It's like, okay, well, if this country has an explosion of cases, then they will not only, or will, if they are able to compete, they haven't been able to train in preparation for competition. So it's a tough thing. I don't know, Deck. I think I'm optimistic. I think that where I live in Nebraska in the U.S. is a very low key place, but the population is small. Unlike, let's say, a place like Arizona or New York City or Los Angeles, where you have these explosions of cases and there's so many people in these condensed areas. I think that for me, there aren't a lot of cases where I train. And so I've been able to kind of come and go safely. But there are a lot of places where a lot of athletes are elsewhere in the country that don't have that same sort of comfort. And so I think we have to kind of be cognizant of that from a competition perspective. But I think that we are getting to a better place. We are getting to a better place. Let's hope that they don't shut us down again and have stay-at-home orders moving forward. It was a tough time for a long period of time, but I think we're doing well now. We're doing better.
Great. No, I personally think that the situation will look better and will improve in the coming months because of, the first experience, the first time it was so unknown. We didn't know what to expect. We didn't know how this virus evolved. I'm sure now when you read the news and you see what the reports are mentioning is that they know more or less how to really control the situation, and the nations are very well prepared to manage the crisis. So
let's say, hey, Jacket, let's say we start to host events in late 2020, late November, early December. Will UWW allow for fans to be at these events, or is it strictly athletes?
It's really up to where the event is taking place.
Okay.
It's not, United World Wrestling cannot take any decision of how the event is gonna roll out, because we really have to consult. So depending on what the bidding process is, and the condition and the terms of and conditions of how the contract is fulfilled, and I mean, even to start off, like, I'm sure Mr. Lalovich and all the technical commission members and the whole of United World Wrestling is looking at how the whole situation in each country is evolving, and if we can have a fan-based presence at the competitions. Like, if I give you the example of Switzerland, because football is so important, they started the matches again, the national team matches without spectators, and then they slowly started to introduce a number of spectators based on a minimum number. I think it was up to 1,000, but then they would have to separate the seating. So these are all elements that we will definitely study when the competition itself is granted and given to a host nation, and then based on that, we will see if there has to be a spacing for the fans or no fans. So many elements, but we will definitely make sure that the event is organized in the best, safest conditions for everyone, not only for the athletes, but also for the city itself and the people coming to watch wrestling. Definitely. And I don't know if you've seen the recent tournament that Djokovic organized. Well, it turned out that, there were some who were affected with the virus. So it's really on a case by case. We have to, you have to go forward somehow, but then, you will have some kind of, it will never be 100% safe, 100% safe situation. That we're all putting ourselves at risk, even stepping out of the door and going to the supermarket. So what do we do? These are questions that I'm sure United World Wrestling will evaluate in due time. So if I may, I'm just going to skip to Yuri, just to give us the updates from the IOC. That's also important. We're working closely with the IOC, seeing how the situation is evolving and what to expect next. And, you know, as much as we want to, us from United World Wrestling, to have this monthly conversation with you just to touch base and see where your country is at and how you are feeling. We're also keeping a tie relationship with the IOC to see what are the updates from their end. Yuri?
Full screen right now?
Yep.
Okay, perfect. I will go in 1 second because I have to reduce this. So the IOC is working right now on some campaigns together with the World Health Organization and United Nations. It's Healthy Together. It's all more related to the role in sports in society. I think it's very positive, and how can athletes work together with their sorry, as role models. Exactly, as role models in the communities. It's very important to keep the population and the people active, and the role of sports in that is very important, because as an athlete are role models in all the societies. The mental health is one of the biggest challenges that the athletes are facing during the pandemic, and this is the results of the survey that was conducted about for more than 4,000 athletes, and 50% of athletes are more concerned about struggling of the complexity of training restrictions, of course, because they cannot go to the wrestling room. And then another points are mentally managing the mental health for athletes. I mean, in terms of motivation and keep active at home. Also, how this will affect the sport careers. And then the other difficulties that were highlighted in this survey was the nutrition and how to keep focus on a diet back in home. This is also some of the statistics that about the current situation. As you can see, again, it's like athletes were unable to train effectively, struggling with keep motivated. It's very hard. I was an athlete just 6 years ago, and I cannot even imagine how this situation that I didn't like, a situation when I put myself in a situation that I'm training, but I have no idea why I'm training. I mean, I know that we will have some competitions in the future, but I don't know right now for which exact competition. It's hard to keep motivated in this situation. Then you have all the resources of the IOC and the Athletes 365 website. There's how to stay positive. There is some resources for athletes in the website. I really encourage you all to go through this link. And it's the biggest part of this is like keep connected, keep united. I can see many examples here in Latin America, how teams, for example, cadet teams are doing training together through Zoom. Like, for example, Mexican kids with Brazilian and Peruvian kids, they're keeping training together at home, but they're doing this international training camps at home, and all these kind of activities that can bring people together and stay focused on what they can do at the moment, and not watching the news all the time with bad news. So I think the IOC is also doing a great job with these activities, joined together with the United Nations and the World Health Organization to show up that we can work together, and we need to go through this issue together as a team, as we do in the sports. I think that's almost all what I have to say. Hello? I cannot hear you, Deka.
Okay, here we go. Thank you, Yuri. Thank you so much. So any other comments before we move to the Q&A? Lei, maybe you want to go back to the agenda if I missed anything.
And reading Jordan Barrow's message, yes, mental health is a real issue. It's not being taken into consideration before, but now is on the table of discussion, and how this will impact not only on athletes, it's how it will impact in the whole society. For example, here in Argentina, we are like more than 100 days locked down without able to go out to the street. We can just go to supermarket or pharmacy. And even if this finished tomorrow, people will still have this fear to go out of their homes. They will have this situation. So mental health will be an issue not only for athletes, also for the whole society. But that's again, is the point that they're mentioned. You as an athlete are role models, and you have to show your skills to transmit, to show to the people that we can go through this situation together as a team, as we do in sports. That's all for me.
Definitely. Yeah, it has been challenging for everybody, and I cannot even imagine an elite athlete like yourselves who all of a sudden, no more training, no more competitions, and but definitely it's something that the IOC has been closely studying, and we do understand that it's also another hurdle, not only to getting back in shape physically, but also mentally starting again. I think it's one of the biggest inner battles that each and every one of you must have, of course, when thinking of going back to the mat. But yes, like I said, the most important thing that United World Wrestling will also take into consideration the required time for all the athletes and the national teams to get back in shape, not only physically, but also mentally. And we are here to support, of course. Before going to the Q&A session, I just wanted to mention that we at the Development and Sports and IT Department of United World Wrestling, we took, I mean, it was hard at the beginning trying to find solutions on how to work, but it was actually a very productive time for us to start looking at other ways and other projects that we didn't have time to develop. And this coming Friday, we will finally launch the academy, the United World Wrestling Academy online education platform. So we will share, there will be a press release, there will be a video, a very big campaign around it, so that you have access to the links. Please do look it up and share with us any of your comments, your feedback. It's it will start off with a little bit of introduction to wrestling, the wrestling rules, and Ready to Wrestle. We will also have the video techniques that Sun Yanan and Arsen came to Vevey to do these video clips with us. Thank you so much again for taking the time. And there will be a bundle of programs and educational content for wrestling, for the wrestling community. And I think, with this crisis, it shows that, yes, we encounter very big challenges, but by going forward, we always find solutions to overcome any crisis, as long as, we stay united and we work together towards the future. So so yes, by Friday, I will share all of this with you through the Athletes Commission email address. So please do check it. I really count on you, because it's like it's my third baby, I may say. So I count on your feedbacks to give me your recommendations, even if they're negative. I'm willing, we're here to improve together the whole the wrestling family as a whole.